Tell me about your vision.
Yeah, so my vision for Ample Media was actually kind of a funny story. So I had a strategic consultancy before that called Drive Solutions, where we help businesses really pivot their businesses to be more strategic about what it was that they were doing to try to achieve better results, right? And so most companies and organizations want growth. They want to be doing better operationally within their businesses. And so that's what we were really focused on. My background, though, in education was on the marketing side of things. And so I'd have these conversations where marketing, sales, lead generation, awareness, these are all things that these businesses were really concerned about once we really mapped out a better path forward for them strategically to grow their businesses.
Mhm.
And so I had one client in which we did a massive change of their strategic direction of their business. And so we needed to explain that to their customer base and their stakeholder group, who were all very disengaged. And I thought, okay, so what's going to be the best way to do that? And I started looking at, now keep in mind, this is like 15 years ago. I started looking at explainer videos, those animated explainer videos that we see all over the place now. At that time, they were relatively new, but I thought those actually are going to work really good because we can explain really complex ideas and very abstract ideas very easily with these animations, and we can make it really tight, really concise in terms of the messaging. And so we wouldn't be really consuming a lot of the viewer's time and we'd still be able to communicate in a very rich way. And so I started looking for providers for that. And there wasn't anybody locally that were producing those. And so I had to look to the bigger cities in Canada, so Toronto and Vancouver. And what I was seeing there was just really, really expensive, and the quality wasn't all that great, actually. And so I turned to a buddy of mine, and I said, who had gone through an art program. He was an illustrator. And I said, you know what, if I were to write the script for a series of videos for this client, would you be interested in illustrating, storyboarding it? And maybe you might know somebody who could animate it. And he said, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. Because at the time he was working in a job that he just was not loving at all. And he wasn't getting his creative, energy really amplified in that. And so he was always kind of complaining to me about how much he hated his job and he couldn't be really creative. And I said, well, okay, if we did this, you get to be creative. And he's like, yeah, I love it. So we started doing these videos. The client loved them. Then people started seeing them and they were asking the client, well, where did you get these made? And so then they would refer them over to us. And eventually I turned to my buddy and I said, I think there's a business in here if we really wanted to grow this. And he's like, yeah, I'd love to do this so that I can, really be creative. And that's where it all kind of started. So the vision was to try to help a client with something. We didn't have any access to that expertise in the local marketplace. And I had a friend that was always complaining about being not creative. And so I kind of created this business out of those three, the collision or the intersection of those three needs or wants.
Absolutely. And I love that you had someone you could actually call and say, hey, look, this is something that I would like. And because I know you might be bored in what you do, let's try to figure something out. And
Yeah.
to me, that is respectfully stated, and that's a founder and a CEO mindset.
Mm.
It's like, what I don't have and what I cannot give to you in another area, if I could just collaborate with someone else and I can, we can build something that gives you the quality and the things that you need behind it,
Yeah.
like that makes all the sense in the world. So if I may say, kudos to you. Like I love that.
Well,
Um,
thank you for that. Yeah, and then I think it's really interesting because I think that it's a bit of a curse in a way as well. And so I talk about this in our podcast with some of our guests too, where, as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as somebody who sees opportunities everywhere, it's really difficult to be able to identify, okay, well, which are the opportunities that are going to have the best potential for success and so on, because um, it's we're different. We're hardwired a little bit differently than the average person. Because I hear this all the time from people. They go, "Oh man, you're a business owner. That'd be great. I'd love to own my own business. I just need an idea. I just don't know what I could do." And I'm just like, I don't understand that way of thinking or that way of being at all, because everywhere I go, there's opportunity, because there's problems, and all we're doing is trying to solve problems that either we ourselves are experiencing or that we're hearing other people experiencing. It's just like, I know how to turn that around into a business, and so it can be really distracting, and it can be really, really difficult to navigate through that and stay focused, and then also obviously pick the winners that are going to turn into great businesses.
So now I just thought about something, amplimedia therapy. Like, like, hey, because you have the tools, with all these ideas, someone that actually has the foundation of like creating a business without the thought process, or, that doesn't have a mindset like you, could utilize that amplimedia therapy to be like, oh, that's good. I think I could do that. Um,
Yeah. So the other thing too, and this is where I guess it's maybe even a little bit more of a curse in a way. So beyond the distraction that it's created by seeing that opportunity everywhere, it's really difficult, I think, um, to talk to people who don't have
mm,
that same level of I don't know, curiosity and willingness to really try to find ways to help, and so that's why with Amplify Your Business, I just love that, because just like you today, you get an opportunity to talk to like-minded individuals, right? And so I love that aspect of it, because um, we are a different breed, like I mentioned. And so to be able to have that opportunity to talk to people and relate to people that are on the same kind of wavelength as what you are is just a real gift. And so that's nice. But it's sometimes in those, the family dinners and the friend group from high school or whatever the case might be, who don't live in the same space as what you live. Sometimes those conversations just seem really contrived and difficult. I want to talk about business. I want to talk about growth. I want to talk about all these things that are going to help change the world.
I love the word contrived because I tell you, it's no joke. I just have to tell a mini story. It was myself, another colleague. I'm a full time real estate agent. We got invited to a lunch, and my colleague said, I have so much to talk about in the business. I don't know how this lunch is going to go. I'm like, well, we have to, they don't have a business just yet. We'll have to plan on the side, because you're right. It's hard to stay in a mindset of, and I guess it's just about being present and where you are and all that. But it was really hard to end the actual lunch. We ended up on what we wanted to talk about. And I think now I'm like, maybe I should apologize because that wasn't the goal, was a business meeting and a business mindset. With all of this, and because you found that you had this love for creating and this curiosity and seeing opportunities, where are you at now? So you have Amplimedia and you have Amplify Your Business. What's
Yeah.
next?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So for me, with our business, so we've been growing quite rapidly, since the beginning of COVID, I suppose. When things reopened, we just really took off in terms of growth, because we spent a lot of time when things were closed, just really focusing on, okay, so how are we going to boomerang out of this? Because it was really slow for the first few months. Everybody was holding their cash very tightly because they wanted to preserve it. They didn't know what tomorrow was going to hold, and so we had this pent up demand. But at the same time, um, it, strategically, I knew that as soon as things turned around, that all these other agencies out there that were doing similar things to what we were doing, if they laid off their staff and really were kind of slowed down themselves, they didn't have the expertise now in house to be able to really just take on that extra work that was going to come in. And so we made a strategic decision to maintain all of our staff. We didn't lay anybody off. We just really focused on our own marketing and really, walked the talk that we talk to our clients about every day. And so we propelled really quickly. Now that growth, though, came with a tremendous amount of challenge, because there's a lot of systems operationally that we had in place for the size of company that we were at that time. And then when we have rapid growth, a lot of the systems broke. And
Mm.
so when we got to a different scale, and I hear this when I talk to other entrepreneurs, is there's different stages. So when you get to a 20-person firm, the systems that you had when you were a 5 person firm, that ends up not really working. And then the next level that is a significant one for people is 100 people. And then again, you have all these different steps. And so that's what I've been working on for the last, well, probably a little more than a year now. Last year was our big focus there around trying to revamp our systems, our processes, build better efficiencies in so that we could be more profitable, and then also at the same time be able to do a better job for our clients too. And so this year's vision is all about effectiveness. It's about excellence in execution. And so we reworked our processes. Now it's a matter of now leveraging what we invested in the last 12 months into something that is really going to help propel our clients forward with better results. And with the whole AI shift that's happening and its infusion into everything that we really do as an agency. So from a content creation standpoint, ideation standpoint, strategy standpoint, to the design, and even now into some of the video content creation, it's touching every aspect of our business. And so that's where I'm really spent a lot of my time. So from what's next, it's about, okay, so how do we AI infuse our business beyond what any other agency out there is doing, so that we can be leading and be ahead of that curve, so that, again, we can serve our clients better, and we can really continue to grow and be relevant in a marketplace that's continuously evolving.
Absolutely. And I love the transparency, for lack of better words, because I think what it's showing the audience too, you see the name on there as founder and CEO, right? But you also see that you're also having experiences and growth that are showing individuals that do start a business is that there's levels. And although you've been doing it for a while, those levels you too have to experience and then adjust to the differences of the world. So I love that. In my opinion, before I started all of this, I thought I would get on here and I would meet all these individuals that have it together. You
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Lance, you were supposed to have it together, right? You're
yeah,
supposed to
yeah.
tell us everything, the steps, because you're here respectfully, right? That's the way you see CEO and founder. But to sit here and tell me that you still have steps of growth, and this growth isn't necessarily because you know what, I want to push to grow. I want to push to help my
Yeah.
clients be the best at what they can be. And then by having 300 interviews with entrepreneurs, all you're doing is just continuing to grow, and those levels will continue to probably just get, higher and higher and higher, where it just shows, the newer entrepreneurs, it doesn't happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight.
No, no, and this is the one thing that I think we as humans, but definitely as business owners, I I think that there's an imposter syndrome that we all suffer from, and I talk about this on occasion with people that I interview as well, and it's something that is not uncommon. Like I don't know if I've ever met anybody, regardless of what stage they are at in their professional life, where there is not some level of imposter syndrome that creeps in every once in a while. And I think this is the reality of business ownership and trying to grow your businesses and so on, is just when you think you've got it figured out, right? You've gone through a bunch of hurdles. You've faced a lot of those crazy times where you feel like the business is going to just collapse around you, and then if somehow you manage to keep it going, and then things are turning around and the revenue's coming back in, and you're excited and think, okay, I think we got this figured out. We have a system in place. We have the right presence in the marketplace. We've got inbound leads that are coming in, and we're converting those, and our operational side of things is just ticking along good. And then all of a sudden, boom, something will happen, and it'll just kick you in the in the teeth, and you just think, like, what the hell? I thought I had this all figured out, and now there's another challenge in front of me. Whether that's the pandemic that happened, whether that is losing, a core customer that represents a big chunk of your business, or what we're faced with right now with Trump talking about tariffs, and in Canada talking about retaliatory tariffs and so on. So we could get into a trade war, and that's going to disrupt a lot of businesses on both sides of the border. It doesn't matter what business you're in, just when you think that things are going smooth, something happens. You lose that key employee, whatever the case might be. And so we're always having to learn. And I think the best entrepreneurs are the ones that have that continuous strive to learn, to understand, to explore, to test, to try things out, and continue that process of evolving themselves as well as their business. Those are the ones that are going to be successful at the end of the day, because if you pause, if you stop that growth in your thinking in your business, you're going to likely get passed by the competition, or passed by some sort of event that's going to disrupt your business. So yeah, I don't think we ever have it figured out. And so anybody who claims to, I think that they are delusional, because it is truly an adventure, and you have to hold on tight, because you're going to be going places that you never thought.
Yeah, yeah. And it just reminded me of like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Even though you see the dip and there's a dip in there, just when you feel like you're high up and I can
Yep.
see the world and everything looks beautiful, and you forget that there is the biggest dip, which is something that is inevitable, I believe, and not everything just goes up, 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 up in a way.
Yeah.
Um, so I thank you for sharing that. And I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I always have one favorite question.
Okay.
Uh, Regardless of all that you've done and all that you're doing, I would love to hear, what are the greatest joys of what you do?
Yeah, this is an easy one, because for me, I I've always been somebody who really wants to serve others, and so this goes back to my childhood. I grew up in a really small, remote farm community, and in that community, because it was so remote, we didn't really have any, social infrastructure that was, government provided or anything like that. Everybody had to rely on each other, right? And so you helped out your neighbors, and you were there to support the community. And so that was something that I grew up just really valuing, and it was just part of who I was and am, because of my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents. Right, they were always the people who stood up and helped build the church, helped take care of the cemetery, helped the neighbor when the neighbor was sick or had some sort of issue happen on their farm. And so that's the way that I approach life, is we just need to help others. And the more that we are there for other people, the more we serve, the better the communities are in which we are, living and raising our families and so on. And so for me, I go back to what is, the core elements to a thriving community. And I think in a lot of respect, it starts with a thriving business community, because it's the small businesses that really support then, the local hockey team or soccer team or whatever the case might be, as well as the charities and the not-for-profits. They're the ones that have, the knocks hit on their door, asking for donations, asking for support in kind, or whatever the case might be. And so we're constantly giving back. And if we are thriving as businesses, we can give back more. And so then the community becomes much more vibrant as well. And so my passion, my joy is to see our clients, our businesses, our entrepreneur community thrive, and anything I can do to support that. And, I think that we play a really important role in that, in terms of the lead generation, which really fuels the growth of these businesses that we work with. I get tremendous joy out of that.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.